welcome to Sparkle and Chill. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Glad you're here. I am working still on Gus here. I was gonna switch things up, but honestly, I need to work on this. I didn't get near as much as I had planned to get done this week done. So I've got to get it done, and I was kind of lazy this weekend. I don't know, I was so tired all weekend that I just wasn't getting anything done. Okay, so, and I just was looking at the clock going, oh, it's like almost 8 o'clock, and I haven't done my video, so here we go. So, that's what we're doing. And I wanted to talk about some things. I kind of, let me find this color first. Okay. I got most of this done last night, but I haven't done anything today. It's hot. It's 100 degrees here in Portland. And it hasn't been this hot yet. And I had to turn down the fan because it's kind of loud. My ceiling fan. So I've got it on, but it's not really doing a whole lot. So I was thinking about things last night, actually. I was trying to figure out what was I going to talk about when I did my video this weekend. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, or that had come to my mind this week, that I was has nothing to do with diamond painting. We'll get to some stuff on diamond painting, but I was thinking about tipping culture. And I was getting a little frustrated. So I went to a restaurant a couple weeks ago, and they have just, the service has gone downhill. The food is, warmed up. I'm not going to name the restaurant, but it's not good anymore. It used to be my favorite restaurant, one of my favorite places to go for a nice restaurant, and now I just make the stuff I know how to make that they make myself, because it's not worth the money they're charging, and it's certainly not worth being guilted into 30% tips. Okay, so most of you, knowing the demographics of my audience, will, I hope, resonate with this. But I grew up in a time when tips were something that you gave for superior service. Or maybe when you noticed somebody was having a really bad day, you gave them more tip than they deserved, mostly just because their effort was there. Their execution might have been bad, but their effort was there, and you wanted to bless them. But today's entitlement, and restaurants, frankly, expecting their customers to pay their employees' salaries, is getting a little bit old, if you know what I mean. So I saw on my bill when I went to this restaurant was a thing, something to do with, I don't remember the exact words on it, but it's something to do with helping with their health care. And I'm like, okay. But what really chapped my hide even more than that, I looking at this bill and going, this is ridiculous. I've already paid an exorbitant amount of money because they've raised the prices 3 times what it used to be 3 years ago. So I'm already paying a pretty hefty amount for the food I'm getting, and now they want me to pay their staff's paycheck. A tip is not supposed to cover their paycheck. It's just not. And then something happened that was really mind-boggling. So I started thinking about it. If an average order at a sit-down restaurant for a couple people is $40, and they're getting 20%. That's what, like $8 if people actually pay the so if they're getting an extra $8, and they're doing, you know, 3 tables an hour. That's $24 an hour just in tips. Okay? Granted, not everybody's tipping the way they should, but on a good night, if they're just making that 20% that they're demanding now, they're doing better than most people who are working other jobs. So this poor waitress routine doesn't work anymore. Now, grant you, I grew up with a mom who worked for tips, but in a completely different era when people tipped based on service. And so I'm sitting here the other night, and I had already been kind of frustrated with the whole tipping situation that night, because they added a gratuity, then they added another fee, and then they added another fee, and hope we don't catch it. So basically, we would have paid the tip twice, except I caught it, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not paying this. You need to pay for your employer's health insurance. You need to pay for my boss, you know, when I was getting health insurance from my employers, they had to pay it, you know, and I paid part of it. But the customer shouldn't have it on their bill as part of their bill as helping pay for their health insurance. I'm sorry. I want everybody to have health insurance too, but none of the customers for my job pitch in for my health insurance. I mean, sure, the bill includes, you know, I mean, we get paid, you know, when you get paid, the money you get paid obviously goes towards those things, but it's built into what you're doing. I'm, for one, ready for for tipping to just go away altogether. I would like to see tipping just be over, we don't do it anymore. That the establishment charges a fair price for what we order, and they pay for their employees out of what we get. So if that means it costs more to go out, then so be it. But I'm not being asked for a handout after every meal. Does anybody feel that way? I mean, I honestly am at the point where I'm just done. Now, I think that so I don't think these people understand when they say, well, if you can't afford it, don't go out to eat. I don't think they understand that people are tired of it, and they aren't going out to eat. They're not. Many people that I know have just stopped going out, and not because they can't afford a nice meal, but because they're sick of it. For mediocre food, right? You get mediocre food. Can I speak? And then they are basically extortionists before you can leave, you know. Pay us this extra money, whether they did a good job or not. They want you to tip them 30%. You know, it's no longer 15%. We want 30%. And we don't want to work that hard to get it. We just want it to be automatic. We want it to be added to your bill. And a lot of restaurants are doing that. They're just adding it to your bill. And that just, in my mind, just floors me. All of these things that they're expecting the customer to pay. And if the food didn't cost so much, if we were getting a good deal on the meal, I don't think many people would mind paying the extra money. But when you're paying 3 times more than you did 2 years ago, and they're wanting a 30% tip, I mean, let's face it, the average family can't afford to go to McDonald's anymore. You know, the average mom who's working a minimum wage job and has a couple kids can't even afford to go get them Happy Meals because it's so expensive. You know, McDonald's used to be, and let's face it, McDonald's probably the lowest caliber of food you can buy as far as for fast food. And now they're charging huge amounts of money, you know, for what you're getting. And I was thinking about it, and then, okay, so I had already been thinking about this topic, and then the other night I watched a video on YouTube, and it was a waitress who was counting out the money she'd made that night. Now, granted, not all waitresses make this kind of money, but she had made like $600 that night in tips. And I'm like, so I'm supposed to feel sorry for waitresses in today's day and age when they're demanding 30% tips. I don't get it. I'm like, and that's because they were getting, $20 a table, $30 a table, at a night. And honestly, I know she was probably working at a more upscale restaurant. But still, when people do that, it does nothing but make me mad, because I don't make $600 a night, or $600 extra a week, or, whatever it is. And so I was just sitting here thinking about it, and I was like, these people are shooting themselves in the foot by bragging about this stuff. Because the minute they start showing the receipts of what they're making, the idea of me paying an automatic 30% so that they can make more money than I do, just for me to eat a meal that was overpriced to begin with in their establishment? No. I don't think so. So how many of you, have gone out recently and were just like floored when you left at what the bill said, because you thought you were spending $14.95 on a meal, and at the end of the day they were double dipping on your tip and asking you to pay for insurance and all these other things here, and they wonder why the restaurants are empty. If you go to just about any of the restaurants that used to be packed, they're not anymore. You can go to a restaurant. It used to be some restaurants, the one I used to love to go to, you'd get there and you'd have to sit and wait, on a weekend to get a table. And it was like, that was just the way it was. If you wanted to go there, you were going to wait. And you did, because at the time, the food was decent. And it was relatively priced, even though it was a nice restaurant. It's not like a top tier restaurant, but it at least, had good food, and they had some things on the menu that were priced that, anybody could go in and order pretty much. And now it's like, I don't know. The last 2 times I've been there, the food was mediocre at best. They had changed the recipe on something that I got all the time, and it was just not good anymore. I'm convinced that everybody's using Cisco now, and they're just reheating slop. They're not actually doing the cooking. You can't go to a chain restaurant anymore and expect to get, it's okay, Millie, and expect to get homemade food or, really good food anymore. It's all just boxed slop that they're throwing into either an oven or a microwave or some kind of warming mechanism. And I was really, really disheartened when I learned. So all of this stuff was already kind of bubbling below the surface, because, I don't like to waste money. And so, I'll go out. I used to go out probably once or twice a week for something, And now I might go out once or twice a month. And I'm not necessarily going to one of the nicer restaurants because it's just too expensive, and I don't want to spend that kind of money on one meal. When I can go spend $20 and get a few things for, I can go buy my vegetables with $20, for the week. I can go buy my broccoli and my green bell peppers and my radishes and my, all of that kind of stuff, and spend $20 and eat on that for a week. And so to spend that on one meal, or go to another restaurant where maybe the meal is $20, but then they're expecting a 30% tip, you know, and then and on top of expecting that tip, they're adding it up wrong. They're adding an extra dollar or two to that percentage. And if you do the percentage yourself, don't ever go to a restaurant today and just automatically think that they're giving you, that you're paying the right amount, because oftentimes you're not. They've been showing more and more videos on YouTube of people recalculating what they're being charged an extra $2 in tip. They're already being generous and offering the 30% or whatever, and then they're and then getting tacked onto it as an extra couple dollars. And then they add that health thing onto it, and then you want to take it home. Sometimes some places are charging you for the box to take your food home in. I mean, I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna bring a Tupperware container from now on. Just I'm not that bad, but it isn't a bad idea, actually, in lieu of what they're doing now with, you know, being able to take your food home. It used to be you just ask for a doggy bag and, you know, whatnot, and or a take-home container. But I don't know, it's really got me a little frustrated, and I know a lot other people are frustrated as well, because everywhere now is asking for a tip. You know, I have a friend who does a lot of like Uber Eats and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, how can you afford that? I mean, just the delivery fees and tips alone is just too expensive, because the company adds on a delivery fee that I thought went to the driver for gas and whatnot. No, they don't see that money. They don't see that money. They see your tip, and that's all they're getting. So what's the delivery fee for? Why are they charging a delivery fee that doesn't go to the person who's delivering the food? I had somebody explain it to me a while back. They were doing DoorDash, and I'm one of those people that if I'm going to tip, I'm going to tip the person at the door. I'm not putting it in electronically, because those people aren't seeing that tip. I have learned that if you tip them, oh darn, I forgot one. If you tip through the app or through whatever you're using, that person is not going to see that money. That goes straight to the company, and they might get a tiny portion of it, but they're not going to get everything you gave. So think about that. But the problem is if you don't tip, the drivers sometimes won't take your order if they think that you don't tip. So you're kind of stuck in a catch-22. You want to, or you worry about them spitting in your food, or not delivering at all, or eating half of it on the way to you. Like, oh my gosh. I watched a video the other day where a person ate half their food and delivered the rest of it. I'm like, man, that is bad. I don't know. I don't trust those things anymore. Once I've seen enough of those videos, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to order using an app where somebody delivers things. And that, and like the grocery delivery. Have any of you done the grocery delivery? I've seen some horror story videos of people who ordered grocery store delivery. Now, the only thing I've done in grocery store delivery was back in 2020 when they first really started it. I had, right when the pandemic hit, I had uterine cancer and went through surgery and whatnot. And so I was not really supposed to go out at all. My doctor was like, you need to really, you know, because of your immune system is down, you know, you need to not do any of that. And so they wanted me to use those services, but half the time they would say something wasn't there. Like the first time I used it at Fred Meyer's here, and I went to go pick up the food, and they said they didn't have any chicken. Like, what do you mean you don't have any chicken? And I guess they were doing a lot of, there was supposedly a lot of shortages at that time. But I had ordered, what had I ordered? I had ordered some soda, and I had ordered some chicken. And granted, it was a specific thing of chicken, so that specific thing of chicken could have been gone. But I called when they brought it out, and I said, can you go and get me a different kind of chicken? You know, a different package. It doesn't have to be the same one, but I'll pay for it. I need some chicken. And they were like, and I'm like, look, I'm not supposed to. So they were difficult. So I decided I'm just going to go into the store. I had my mask. I went in the store, and there was, not only was there the chicken that I had originally ordered, but also the soda that I had ordered that they said they were out of was right there. They weren't out of it. And I was like, how many times is it just a lazy person who can't find it that just says, oh, I don't know where it is, so they're out of it. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I don't know about you. I am just kind of, I feel like this is a rant, and I'm not trying to be ranting. What do you guys think of this? I mean, do you use these services, these apps, these delivery places, or are you starting to not go out to restaurants because it's just cost prohibitive between the tip and the paying for the medical and the price itself of the meal? It's just gotten to the point where it's like, yeah, that isn't even worth it anymore. I remember when I was a kid, and I grew up really in the 70s and 80s, but as a little girl, it was in the 70s. And I remember it was a big treat for my mom to take us out to eat. She just didn't do it very often because, you know, she was a single mom. She didn't have a lot of money. And so we didn't get to do that very often. But I remember when we did, I remember going, my sister was a couple years older than me. And so she was in school when I wasn't. And so the privilege of being the younger sister was sometimes I got to go out and eat at lunch with my mom. And you know, my sister didn't, and it was always, my mom would always say, hey, this is our secret, we can't tell, because your sister will feel bad, she didn't get to have any. And we'd go to McDonald's or Hershey's or, you know, someplace like that. And it was always a big treat, because we just didn't get to do it very often. Okay, what are we looking for? We are looking for 14. And, but I remember then the meals were big. I mean, it was more than you could eat as a child anyways. Now, gosh, I ordered a Junior Whopper with cheese the other day, and I swear, it was like 4 bites. I was like, dang, they gotten small. I hadn't been there for a long time, and I thought, oh, that sounds really good. And I heard that they had redone the Whopper, and it was really good again, and the fries were good. So I thought, I'm gonna go try it, and it was good. It wasn't bad. It was actually good, but it was expensive. I think it was like, I don't know, 9 something for a what is the equivalent of a kid's meal, because it's a smaller burger, and literally it's like 3 bites. So it was one of those things. I guess I'm just wondering if everybody else is feeling, I know other people are feeling the pinch because it's out there, but is it enough to make you say, no, I'm not going to go? Or do you still decide to go and just eat it, knowing that you're just going to have to pay the money? Because I do that occasionally. I will just do it because I kind of want what I want, even though I know I shouldn't pay for it. But the only way it's going to go down and change is if we stop doing it. If everybody says, but then so many of the businesses are closing because nobody's going. You know, McDonald's, what was it? I saw that on the news yesterday. McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's were all in trouble and closing restaurants. And have closed quite a few, or are in the process of going to be closing restaurants. Which I feel bad because on one hand, but then other restaurants are starting to open up, and they understand that. I think what I saw on the news the other day was In-N-Out, In-N-Out Burger, and what was the other one? Chick-fil-A were doing relatively better because of their prices had still increased, but their service was still top. You know, it was still really good. Like when you go to Chick-fil-A, they have somebody there standing there to take your order. And if you want ketchup or sauces, they don't charge you extra for it. Like if you get chicken tenders or something like that and you ask for barbecue sauce, they don't add 50 cents to the order, which other places do if you ask for an extra sauce. And it's interesting to me, even though those restaurants traditionally were a little bit more expensive, now they're the ones that people will still go to because they feel like the service is worth what they're paying, you know, versus going somewhere where the people just don't care. Anyways, that's kind of what's been on my mind this week. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I just was thinking about it, and then I was thinking about it, and then because of going out to eat the other day, and I was just shocked at the demand for not 10%, not 15%, but 30%. They want 30% tips, and they don't want to actually serve you. They just want it and then they want to add these other fees to it as well. I'm like, dang. And so you really got to start watching your credit card and your receipts for what's on it before you swipe to pay. Look at that receipt and see what it says and what you're actually paying for, because you can actually they can't actually force you to do any of that. They can't force you to pay a 30% tip. They can't force you to pay for that insurance stuff. You can ask them to remove that, and you should. The more people that push back, the more they're going to realize that's not flying, and people aren't going to do it. But the more people just pay it and think, oh, you know, the poor server in my butt, they're making more than most normal people. If you're in a restaurant that's charging 30% tips on every table plus, those are not poor servers. They're making more an hour. This lady was posted, there was 2 different people that posted that this person called out on YouTube that were making $1,000 a week in tips. I don't know about you, but $1,000 cash that they're not being taxed on now because of the way that works. And apparently, you know, they're not getting taxed on tips. And so they're getting $1,000 a week. That's that's just their tips. $1,000 a week on tips is a lot of money. And I don't know about you, but I don't mind paying a tip, and I don't even mind them making good money. But I don't want to listen to people cry poor that are making that kind of money. And granted, I know not everybody's making that, but there's enough of them out there that are, that this old, I'm a poor waitress. My sister was a waitress for many years, and she made more money than me. And, you know, I was working a sales position where I made pretty decent money, but she was still making more money than me. So you just, you know, it really depends on where a person's working, whether they're a poor waitress or not. They're not making any money. I don't believe it anymore, especially in today's economy, unless their restaurant is dead because of this. That's the other thing. So I went to, this was it was probably a month ago. I went to Arby's, and yes, I'm naming a restaurant, because the kid there, so I ordered something, and they forgot to give me napkins, and they forgot to give me the sauces that I had asked for. That, by the way, I paid for. And so I walked over, and I had gone over and parked away from the drive-through to eat, and I went back to the window and said, hey, you didn't give me this. And then I asked a question, and I said, that kind of service is going to lead to people not coming back. And he goes, I don't care. I was like, okay, I bet your boss does. I mean, but they don't care. They don't care. They've openly said online, if you can't afford, there was a video that went viral of a person, a waitress at a restaurant, that said, if you can't tip, don't come. If you can't pay 30%, if you can't afford to go out to eat, don't go out to eat. Message heard. And now a lot of restaurants are closing because people have heard that loud and clear, and they don't want to pay 30% tip. And they don't want to pay for their insurance. Nobody pays for my insurance. Well, my boss pays for it. So, I mean, it does get paid. If you want to give those kind of benefits to your employees, that's great. And I think every employer should. But it should be built into the prices that you're already charging. And then that, we understand it costs money to pay your employees. So, yeah, it's going to cost a little more, but I'm not going to be having somebody begging for a tip. I just think that they should end tipping. Tipping should just be done. Every business should have to pay their employers a living wage, and then they should cover all of those things out of what they make, out of the profit from their business, out of what they make. And they should charge accordingly. And that way people go in knowing that what they pay is what they're going to pay, and they're not being asked for something else. Because tipping started, as you all know, as a way to compliment a server for a job well done. And now it's become an expectation. It's not even about, did they do the job well? It's about, well, you had this much, so you spent $40, so therefore you owe me an extra $8. No. If you gave me good service and you were pleasant in your job and you came and you did your job well, I'm going to tip you. And you know what? I might even tip you more than 30%. But here's the catch. This happened, gosh, I want to say it was probably about maybe 10 years ago. I was out with some friends. And this was when this stuff was really new to happening, where they were adding tips to thing. And apparently at this restaurant, they had a rule that if there were 6 people or more at the table, they were automatically adding the gratuity to your check. But they didn't tell you that beforehand. They told you that when they handed you the check at the end. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I just flat out told them, I'm sorry, I'm not paying 30% tip. I'm just not. And, but we went to this restaurant, a group of friends and I, and there was probably 8 of us. And I get it, when they're doing a big table, they're trying to schedule everything and they're doing a good job, then yeah, they're going to earn their tip. But adding the tip, here's the catch. If you add a tip that way, yeah, you're going to get that tip for that many tables maybe. You're going to get that. But you're not going to get a penny more from a lot of people like me. That's going to be your tip. And if I ordered a $2 drink, back then, if I ordered just a soda because I wanted to hang out with my friends, but I really wasn't going to pay to eat, and I just ordered a drink, and 20% was 40 cents, that's all you're going to get. But had you been just letting the tip be whatever it's going to be, probably would have given you $1, So you shoot yourself in the foot when you add a gratuity on. And then some people that would normally give you more than what you're asking for are not going to. They're just going to say, oh, you're going to just take it? Well, then that's all you're going to get. And therein lies the problem. Because some of these people at some restaurants, they're not, if they didn't add the tip on, they'd make even more money. I don't know. I think that's kind of where I'm at. What do you guys think? I was a little bit peeved about this from the other day, and I just was like, I wonder what other people really think about this, because I know I'm frustrated with it. And, granted, I'm going to turn 60 this next year. And so I'm used to, I'm a good tipper. Like I said, I grew up, my mom was a bartender. She worked for tips. That's just the reality of it. And so I do believe in tipping people well. But I also believe in tipping people who actually earn it. And there might be a day when they have an off day. And I'm the kind of person that if I see somebody who's really trying and they're just having a bad day and you can tell they're having a bad day, then I'm going to tip those people well. And I like to tip well anyways, but sometimes you can just tell somebody's just having a really bad day. And, there's been times when I went out with some friends a few years ago, and there was a gal who was just bussing the tables, and she was coming over, and she didn't get paid tips. She didn't get any tips, but she was working her butt off. She was running around. The restaurant was full of people, and people were yelling at her this, and she's not even the person that can do anything for them. And people were getting frustrated with her. And so as we were going out the door, I walked up to her and handed her, not much because I didn't have much at the time. I had $5 in my pocket in cash, and so I walked up to her and I put it in her hand, and she goes, "Oh no, that goes to the waitress." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't. I'm giving it to you. I've watched you work, and I've seen you, really hustling to get things done, and I just believe you should get a tip too." And it made her day. She was like so surprised. And that's not to say I'm some, sometimes we gotta see the people that are trying, Anyways, I guess I didn't mean to rant. I just been thinking about this. It's kind of been ruminating in my brain. Sometimes I give things too much space. You ever do that where you think about something too long and you just give it too much attention? But it's really been bothering me. I work hard for my money. And I like to occasionally treat myself to going out, but it's gotten to where it's not fun anymore. You know, it's not fun when you feel like you're being robbed. Do you guys feel like you're being robbed when you go out to eat these days? I mean, I went to the grocery store today and I bought, so I love my Cascade lemonades. And so I bought my lemonade. That's what I went in for. I wasn't going to get anything else. Of course I did. I ended up buying some broccoli and a green bell pepper and some olives. And what else did I get? And some lettuce. Thought I'd make a salad this week. And taco salad. And also a regular salad. What else did I get? Oh, and I bought some sourdough bread. That was it. And I spent like $23. I was like, dang. And then I'm just buying produce. I didn't even go into the meat section because I was like, no, I've got meat in the freezer. So I like to do, how I grocery shop is different than some people. I try to avoid the middle aisles because I don't want to buy a bunch of junk. And I know if I go down the aisles with the junk, I'm going to buy the junk. I just know it. I just saw a 5. Oh, there it is. And so I don't like to go down those aisles if I can help it. And so I was, oh, and I bought some milk. So I try to stay out of the aisles of temptation where the chips are and the other stuff. And unfortunately, they keep the Cascade ice right by the door when you come in at the Winco that I go to, so I don't have to go down the aisle with the chips and the soda and all that stuff. And that works really good because I don't even have to be tempted by it. Okay, there's one more of those. So that's kind of how I shop, is I just don't go down those aisles. And I know I needed, so I was trying not to trigger my munchies to come on, you know. I did really good most of the week before last, and then this last week I did awful with and I have diabetes, so I have to be really careful, and I wasn't careful, and my blood sugar spiked this week, and I was like, okay, that was completely preventable. All I have to do is not touch this stuff, but I swear it's like an addiction. Anyways, so let me know. I know I kind of just went off. I'm sorry. It's one of those things. It's been a good week. I was really tired this last week, and this week I'm kind of like going into tonight's Sunday night, and I'm going to go into Monday, and I'm kind of tired, and I tried to lay low this week, and it got hot, so that just makes it, you know, it's like 100 degrees outside today, and yeah, that just gets to be a lot. But this is turning out really pretty. Isn't that pretty? I love this. What I love about it is I start out, I just do all the black in the block that I'm doing. I had hoped to be up here this week. If I had worked on it, I would be up there. Part of the problem was little Miss Millie was really being difficult, and so I couldn't work on things because she was just not having it. So today I was like, okay, I have to get some diamond painting done. And last night, so I'm doing the Peggy Collins event, and last night I was still working on it. So you're supposed to post your Saturday, what you've completed, before 11:58 or something. And it was 12:03 when I realized that I hadn't done it yet, and I was working on it, and I had gotten this section done. So I posted it anyways. I'm like, ah, shoot. I didn't get it in time, but that was kind of frustrating. Because I had purposely worked on it so that I could get it posted, and then it was just not a little wax on there. So I am done for the night, even though I probably should do this whole section here. I don't think she's gonna make it, and it's already 8 o'clock, and I am not staying up till midnight tonight because I have to work tomorrow. But this is so pretty. It's so pretty. The colors are a mix of just regular colors and ABs, and I think there's some fairy dust in there too. Yeah, and it's just yeah. There's only one fairy dust. The green. This green here, and then the ABs are number 1, number 2, and number 3 are all ABs, and they've been down here. And I gotta say, so this Dreamer Design pen, it's awesome for the ABs. I have an air pen, but it you know, I didn't get it charged up, and the other day I was wanting to see how does this work, and I like it a lot. So this is really a game changer with the ABs. You're still only able to do one drill at a time, but that works. Now what I have found is it's best to lick it or touch it to your tongue and then put it on the drill, which I know sounds kind of but it does help it to stick because you don't put any wax in this. And the reason you don't, I've had people say, well, that doesn't happen to me, but it has happened to me. If you use the wax in your pin on the ABs, it will pull that special coating right off. Now, it doesn't happen on the dust drills because the dust drills are, that's a mica coating that's baked in. The ABs, it's just like a coating that's over the top, and it can actually come off on the wax. So that's why you have to use that's why the deal with using either a pin like this, or this is my air pin. I'm kind of disappointed with it. The tip on this is not made properly. They need to turn this into a metal tip. And they've come out with 3 or 4 other ones since this was their original one. The problem is that they haven't corrected the problem with the tip. They're making new ones, but the tip is still made of this plastic that wears down. So it makes it difficult. So I won't be buying another one unless they get a metal tip. If they get a metal tip, it's a great tool. But I am really enjoying this. This was a good find. So, and I have 2 of them now. I should have another one somewhere, but I think I might have given that one away. But this is a game changer for me in that it gives me, you know, another way to do those without it. And it's not difficult to use. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry if I kind of went on and on about tipping. But tell me, if you made it this far, please comment to me your experience about tipping and what you think about what's going on. And I know most of you, just based on the demographics of my people, my tribe here, those of you that are showing up and watching, you're all pretty close to my age range. And so, you know, it's 45 to over 65. So is most everybody that is watching. Not that there can't be other people, but the vast majority from the demographics is that. So what do you guys think? Because I know for me, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And we're watching all kinds of restaurants close down because people are tired of it. And you kind of want to hope that the restaurant people, the people that own the restaurants, will wake up and decide that they need to do something to change, or they're going to lose their businesses altogether, you know, because enough of us have had enough. And it's not even that we've had enough. When the cost of everything has gotten so high. It's very difficult to spend money that doesn't have to be spent. The first thing that happens when people hit hard times is they stop going out. That's just one of those things that can be cut out easily. They stop going out and they cancel subscriptions that they don't need, like Netflix or, other things that they don't have to have. Those niceties that you enjoy go away because you got to pay the real bills. And so, yeah, what do you think? Anyways, thanks for watching. Sorry I rambled on. Have a great day, a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.